the X-Wing started to open. I was like, oh, I know what that means.
Another Star Wars book review here on a podcast named Tim. Today we're doing the young adult novel Star Wars The High Republic Into the Dark. This is Claudia Gray's first High Republic novel, but not, of course, her first novel in the Star Wars universe. She has done a number of them, and a lot of them have been my favorites. I can think of three right off the top of my head. Lost Stars, Leia, Princess of Alderaan, and Bloodline. Two of those being young adult novels, and Lost Stars probably being my favorite Star Wars canon novel. But did this live up to the hype? As far as one of, again, who I think is currently the best Star Wars novel or novelist. Obviously, Timothy Zahn is great, but he focuses exclusively on Thrawn nowadays, and I would say his Legend stuff is better than his canon stuff, although it's still great. I think Claudia Gray has been the best Star Wars canon novelist, and I don't think it's even close. But I would say that this is her weakest of the 4 or 5 she has done. It was released February 2nd of this year, 2021. I listen to the audiobook because that's what I typically do for my novels, especially the canon novels, just because the Star Wars production level is so great in there. And there are going to be some spoilers ahead, but I just want to say what I really liked about it first is I love the characters in this book, although there were a few of them, and one of my criticisms in my review of Into the Light, which was the adult novel that launched the High Republic, is that to me there were so many characters I had a hard time really gravitating towards them. There were fewer this time, and I thought that Claudia Gray's writing also just brought them out as far as who they were and what they stood for and their conflicts, both internally and externally. And I think that's really where this book shines, is the characters, and each of them has, especially the Jedi, have an internal struggle about what they believe the Jedi should be and their interpretation of how the Order should function, and a lot of them have run into a barrier where they feel that the Order maybe isn't serving their needs, or maybe there's a contradiction in the Jedi tenets, and they're really struggling with what it means to be a Jedi. And so I really appreciated the novel for this, because each of the characters came at it with from a different vantage point. And I must say, Padawan Reath Silas, who is probably one of my favorite canon characters, especially to come from books. He is he does not want adventure. He's like the anti-Luke Skywalker. He wants to sit in the archives, read a book, do some studying, hang out on Coruscant. I found him incredibly relatable, and I think, like I said, I think he's one of the best characters that, not just in the High Republic, but in all of Star Wars canon currently. I immediately gravitate towards him. His master is Jorah Mali, I believe is how her name is pronounced. I'm still learning all the names. She was mentioned in Light of the Jedi, and she, of course, dies. This takes place during the Great Disaster. Basically, Reath his master has said that you need to go out and venture and see the world, and we're going to go to Starlight Beacon together, and you can be on the frontier and live in service. She thinks that he's tied too much to the archives, and that's not, he needs to go out and see other things. He needs to get a little bit more adventurous. Reath is not interested in that at all, and unfortunately they are separated during the Great Hyperspace Disaster, the Great Disaster, and it's Aura Jarnelli, I think is how it's pronounced. Comek Vitus are the other Jedi that are trapped on the ship when the big disaster happens. Again, this is the Great Disaster. Basically, hyperspace lands shut down and are not able to be accessed because there's just exploding debris everywhere within them. There's also Des Rydan, who is another former Padawan of Jorah's, but he's the complete opposite. He's just all about adventure and needs to learn how to calm down. What's interesting is a lot of the story is focused on this main issue that's going on. When the hyperspace issue occurs, they have to immediately get out of hyperspace. They find in a Maxine system or a space station out there, kind of in the middle of nowhere. Them and a lot of other travelers end up there, and they're kind of trying to survive. And then they end up sensing a darkness there. They think there's something evil, and they end up finding these like statues that are containing the dark side, as far as like they're preventing it from spreading in this, or they think that they are the dark side, and they end up taking them back to the Jedi Temple, and then they realize they screwed up and they actually unleashed some evil. And this is kind of where we get into an interesting part, probably a controversial part of the book, which is the introduction of the Drangir, which are giant man-eating plants that I guess are one with the dark side in some respects. They end up having to deal with this and the Nihil, who were secretly on board, kind of pretending that they were average citizens. And so those are the main issue that's going on here. There's a side story that's going on where we're flashing back 25 years in the past, where Orla and Comac had a mission in the same sector like 25 years earlier where they had failed, and it caused both of them to kind of question, led to their questioning of the Jedi. So Comac, basically, his master dies, and he questions, why can't I grieve? And Orla trusts her instincts, but on this mission earlier, but she, because of her teachings of like how the Jedi should operate, she doesn't go with her instincts, and then it causes someone to die on the mission. And so that leads to her questioning of the Jedi, which actually that does lead to one really interesting thing, which is the idea of a Wayseeker, which is what she ends up becoming. And it's this like Jedi where you get official permission to kind of go rogue in some respects and kind of operate without the approval of the Jedi Order or with the Council. And so that was just an interesting concept. But that's why they're questioning things and what they're specifically questioning about the Order. And then same thing with Reith. He's just, he doesn't understand his place, and he's kind of going through a lot of different things. The other main characters are a group of smugglers that work for the Bind Guild. There's Leox, there's Affy, and Geode. And Geode is the worst part of this book, in my humble opinion. He's a giant rock, literally. That's the character. And But Leox is very kind of go with the flow. I think I listened to someone describe him in one of the reviews of, I think it was Star Wars Explained, said he was kind of like space Matthew McConaughey, and that's probably a good example. Affy is very young and she's very righteous in some respects. Her adopted mother is head of this guild, and when they're on the station, they find these symbols that have been drawn that are like code for smugglers to maybe be doing nefarious things, and she's concerned that people are doing this behind her adopted mother's back, but then she figures out that she might be in on it as well. And so that's kind of the overall what's going on in this book. I would say the Drangir were interesting. I'm curious to see what they do with them moving forward, just because you now have this threat that I would say is a bigger threat than the Nihil in some respects. And that's probably my biggest criticism of the book, is that other than the flashbacks, which to me just kind of felt like padding in some respects, there was that. There was the idea that we took the statues, realized we screwed up, and then kind of had to backtrack to fix their earlier mess. And I don't really like when in Star Wars, if you're going to do multiple planet kind of hopping, I don't really want to backtrack a lot. So I didn't really. That's just a very nitpicky thing in that regard. And then, but the other thing is, I didn't like the fact that there wasn't enough of focus on the Nihil, who, prior to the High Republic launching, were built up as the big bad for this era. And so it is good, but it is certainly my least favorite of the Claudia Gray novels, who I love and think she's fantastic. I did like it a little bit more, like I said, than Into the Light, just because mainly because of the characters. But I prefer the story overall of Into the Light, but the characters here were much better in my opinion. So those are my general thoughts on Star Wars, the High Republic Into the Dark. Please, check it out and let me know your thoughts. Happy to talk about it in the comment section below. Did you like it? Did you not like it? What are your thoughts on Geode and the Drengir? And did you have a favorite character from this book? Thank you again for checking this out. Please do subscribe and get the video a thumbs up. It does a lot to help out the channel. And we'll see you next time here on a podcast named Tim.